Hey Lila, I learned some really interesting stuff today in linguistics. Do you mind hearing some about it?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. So today in linguistics we learned about morphology. And do you know what morphology is? Anything about it?
Not really.
Okay, so the morphology is the study of word formation. And we look at the study of word formation by a morpheme. So a morpheme is the smallest independent unit of language that has a meaning or a grammatical function. Okay, so that's what a morpheme is, and this is how we study the way words are formed. So here's some examples of what a morpheme could be. So a morpheme could be a full word, which would be like the word talk, or the word pie, the word what, those full type of words. Another part of a morpheme can be parts of a word that have a meaning. So that would be like S at the end of the word. So like girls, that is a morpheme, the S at the end. Or this one where it says ER or RE. So the RE could even be at the beginning of words. And that could be a morpheme. So a morpheme can, like I said, it can be a full word, or it can be just a small part of a word that has a grammatical meaning. So they can either be free or bound. So free morphemes stand on its own. So it could be a word like the word light, hot, shoe, yes. All of these types of words are free because they can stand on their own. So once they're broken down into their smallest unit, the morpheme, it can either stay by itself and be used, or it can't. So if it can't, it's called bound. So it must be attached to the morpheme for it to be used. So for example, we have ing, ily, and then we have pre, which can be before a word, and then we have il, which can be before a word, and then er at the end and s at the end. So for example, you wouldn't use this in it has to be bound because it has, you wouldn't just say ing in the middle of a sentence. You wouldn't just be like, the boy was ing down the road, it has to be connected to something. So it could be connected to like light. So it'd be lights. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So these bound words that we were just talking about are called affixes. So an affix is attachable to the morpheme, and it can be at the start, middle, or end of a word. So an affix would not be the free words, okay? It's only the ones that cannot stand alone. It's only the bound words. So there are a few different kinds of affixes. We have a prefix, a suffix, an infix, and a circumfixes. Do you know what any of those might mean?
I think I know what prefix and suffix
Okay,
are.
so what do you think those are?
Pre is at the beginning.
The beginning? Mm-hmm.
Suffix is at the end.
Right, and then have you ever heard of an infix or a circumfixes?
I'm assuming in is in the middle.
Right,
I
okay.
don't know what circumfix is.
All right. Good guesses. You were on the right track for sure. So now I will tell you about those. A prefix attaches at the start of a word. So you were right. So these are words like restart, illegal, unhappy, impossible. So I underlined all of those, and you can see exactly where the prefix is, right at the start. And all of these prefixes have to be attached to a word, right? Because it's bound. And then in the suffix attaches at the end of the word, so you're correct about that as well. So we have cats, we have portable, jumped, and roofing. So we have the S, the able, ed, and ing. See that all underlined? That makes sense. And then the infix, which exactly attaches in the middle of the word, and we don't really have any grammatical words that we use, like real words that we use. So we have fan, flaming tastic, or we have some people saying that people say Fran freaking tastic. That's what an infix would be, kind of like a word inserted in the middle of the word. All right, and then we have circumfixes, and these are not very familiar. Most people don't really use this, and it's only in a couple of English words, so we really don't use this in English. It's more used in different languages, but we do have a couple, which I added. We have enlighten. So the en at the beginning and the end. So yeah, like it attaches at the start of a word and the end of the morpheme. So it's in the beginning and the end. So it's not just one or the other. So like I said, we have enlighten, and then we have embolden. So the em at the beginning and the en at the end. And like I said, it's not really used, it's not very popular, but it's still good to learn about it.
So they don't have to be the same one?
No, they don't have to be the exact same. See, in this word, it just happens to be the same.
Okay.
And then in embolden, you can see it's two different ones. But we don't use that very often in English, but it's still good to know that it is possible to have a prefix and a suffix at the end, and that would be a circumference. Okay. Circumfixes. Okay, so now I'll have you do some practice. If you can think of some prefixes and some suffixes, I'll have you write them down, and then we will go over what you wrote. I'll give you a minute to do that. This is okay.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. It's fine. I know, I listed off some, so they don't have to be completely different from the others if you can't think of any.
Does it matter how many I do?
No, doesn't matter.
Okay. I'll just do one more.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right, so let's see what you wrote down.
Yeah.
All right. So for your prefixes, you wrote down insane. So we are. I'll underline. Here are all the words you wrote. I'll underline the suffixes and prefixes, and so we can just go over it. So you wrote insane, which is correct. Good job. In would be the prefix to sane, and then you have irregular, which is awesome. Which is the ir is the prefix to regular, and then for suffix, you did meant and movement. That's a good one. That's really smart one to think about. And suffix, you did power. Another suffix is powerful, and you did the full and powerful. And then lastly, you did steadily, and the ILY and steady. Good job. Yep, those are great examples of prefixes and suffixes. It looks like you are on the right track and understand so far what we're going over. So, some more practice. I will have you do. So in the beginning we talked about the morphemes and breaking them down. So now we're gonna do some practice with breaking down the morphemes. So I want you to go through. I listed these words: rattlesnakes, hedgehog, paralegal, reboot, and preview. And I'll have you go along and underline the small, like break it down the morphemes. Okay?
Yeah.
And then when you're done, we'll go over it.
And I do like every part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just so we can see how many, like what it can be broken down into.
Think I have it.
Okay, so let's see what you separated. So you separated rattle, and then snakes, and then the S. Awesome. That's exactly how that one should be. So would you say the word The rattle is a bound morpheme or a free morpheme?
Free.
Awesome. And snake?
Free.
S?
Bound.
Bound, exactly. All right, and hedgehog, you underline the hedge and then the hog. So would you say hedge is free or bound?
Free.
And then hog?
Free.
Free. They both are. All right, and then paralegal, you underline the para and then you underline the legal. Do you think para is free or bound?
Bound.
Yeah, it's a prefix. Yep, it cannot stand alone. That one's definitely a tricky one, so I'm glad you got that. And then legal, you underlined, and that is
Free.
Free. All right, and then we have reboot, and you underline the re, and then the boot, and then the re is free or bound?
Bound.
Bound, yep. And then the boot is free. And then for preview, you underline the pre, and then the view. And would you say pre is bound or free?
Bound.
Yep. And then view?
Free.
Good job. So usually there is usually like one or the other, free or bound, but paralegal or hedgehog, that one was one that was just both of them were free. So it's interesting to pay attention to that. Okay, so then the affixes actually have a lot of meaning to the word. So if you're adding an affix, it could change the whole word's meaning and the part of speech. So when that happens, that is called derivational affixes. And derivational affixes causes the change in the word's meaning and the part of speech, okay? So this would be like a word like moves on, gets changed to dislike. It gets the prefix dis and then like. So if you like something, now the whole entire meaning of the word is changes because now you don't like it. So that makes sense, right? And then same with this. We have trust and then we have mistrust. So at first you trusted someone, but then when you added the prefix mis, now you mistrust someone. And then we have perishable, and when you add the prefix imperishable, it changes the whole meaning of the word. So now it's no longer parable, now it's perishable. And so now the whole meaning is all changed, right? So that's derivational affixes. And then there's another one that also affects the entire word, and that's called inflectional affixes. And that keeps the same overall meaning to the word, but it creates a new grammatical form. So I wrote down some examples, like the word girl gets changed to girls, and there's still girls, but just now more than one girl. So it's overall it's the same meaning, but it's just a different type of grammatical form. So that would be the same thing for all numbers. So like girls, boys, anything you're making plural, changing. So another thing that is like this is the word like loved. So the tense, a tense, like the ed, that doesn't really change the word, it just changes the grammatical form. And then we have the word shorter. So when you're comparing something, comparative, that'd be another example with the er. And the word funniest, the est, is superlative. And so why do we break down these words? Why do we even do this? We do this because when we break it down into morphemes, it has a lot of uses actually. Knowledge of it can help with language learners better understand spelling and punctuation. So if you are a second language learner and you're having problems with that, having knowledge about how to break down words into their morphemes definitely will help them enhance their skills and learn what they need to learn. And understanding morphemes can also widen your vocabulary because morphemes can act like a building blocks to form more complex words. So once you know little parts of words, you can start to build off that. So that is why we learn about morphology and the formation of words, because it can help you in a lot of other ways. Now, did you learn something new about morphology?
Yeah.
So I'm sure you've known about prefixes and suffixes and all that before, and now you can know where it came from. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.